Well, a little bit tricky point is that when Zoom is connecting to the YouTube, it has some kind of lag a little bit and not quite clear. Yes, I think now it's perfectly fine. I think we are already streaming, and I just gonna record just in case the same thing on your computer, on our computer. Sorry, if any troubles, at least we could just upload video. Hello everyone. Hello John, and hello Caroline. So
Hi.
today we are gonna continue. Actually, I cannot believe that we're already moving to the fourth talk about fear and uncertainty. And Caroline decided to join us. I'm very happy that that you join our discussion between me and John. And just maybe a few words about yourself, just for people to get familiar with you. Shortly, what you would like our visitors to know.
You didn't forewarn me of that question, Alex. I trained as a coach some years back and practiced as a coach, but I've also, my interests very much sort of, well, helping people to be more at ease. I think more at ease with their lives and themselves, and particularly like everybody working on myself particularly. And so, yes, I'm interested in all things sort of psychological, the mind-body connection, being at ease with yourself, being at ease with your life. Basically, yes, being learning to be a happier person. And I've studied a whole number of different things, and not just coaching or NLP.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I try to help people using whatever tools are appropriate.
Yeah.
But
well,
mainly it's not for myself. Mainly it's for myself.
we trained together through the whole coaching courses, I don't know, like 12 years ago. And I know you've done therapy, you've done lots of things related to psychology and yeah, I think therapy related. Okay, so guys, today in terms of focus of our talk is about release, and I'm really curious. Of course, I am following the steps of the process which was introduced. John, you introduced the whole process of fear, facing, exploring, accepting, and releasing. So my question to you both, and yeah, it doesn't matter which order you're going to take answering it, but what release would mean for you? How you understand that part, the last part of the process?
John, after you.
All right.
As it's your acronym.
the founder and yeah,
the founder,
the theorist.
So as we explore the release part of this, if we look at the image of holding on to something really tightly, and this is what I imagine that, we hold on to this fear, right? And it's in front of us and we're holding on and we're gripping it. And as we move through this process of looking at it, observing it, exploring it and accepting it for what it is, I see this opportunity for particularly myself, and I work through this process, is to let go. And when we let go of that grip, we begin to relax a little bit. And I want to be clear, that doesn't mean that it goes away, that it disappears. But what we've done is we've let it go. We've opened up a space that I think allows some, and if I can use this analogy, it's like opening the blind of a window. You've been staring at this blind and it's been dark and you can't see through it. And in a way, it's opening up this blind and allowing the light and the images from outside to finally come in. And I think that is where the space is created. But again, this idea of letting go of the grip and the hold that we have on this. And as we've spoken before, once we do this, our attention begins to go to where we want to believe a more positive place, or to be able to see things a little differently. And that's why, again, I use this example of the blind, because then we can see outside. And, you know, that light comes in a little bit. And then ultimately we can talk about what we do as we begin to see beyond this fear that we've been holding on to so tightly.
Yeah. Okay, nice. I like analogy, and I like the metaphor of the blinds and able to see through something which before was almost like a wall, something, I know, like a impenetrable. Or okay, Caroline, thank you, John. Caroline, what would be your take on
Very,
I don't know,
very,
yeah,
very similar. But what John's just said has just reminded me of something I came across, reminded myself of today, a quote. And it's from Mary Angelou, which says, "Hope cannot occupy the same space as fear. Hope and fear cannot occupy the same space." And so it ties in with what John said. It is a question of, and those magic words, let go. Absolutely, it is letting go. And letting go, sometimes letting go of thought is comparatively easy, or at least you learn to do that, let go of a thought. You think, okay, it's just a thought, you know, let it pass, and, you know, another one arrives. But actually we also hold it physically in our bodies, and that's something which people sometimes don't pay enough attention to, I think, particularly holding it in their bodies. So you're holding emotions in your body, and it is an emotion, it's a fear. You're holding in your body. So one of the approaches to achieve that letting go, that tension you're describing, John, is absolutely learning to be aware of it, notice it, and actively release it in some way, and physically release it. And I mean, we all do it in different ways. I'm sure you've got a favorite technique of letting go of tension or fear of some sort. It's a bit more difficult when it's chronic, because here we're talking in a way about something which is chronic as opposed to an acute one. We probably all really quite good think, okay, take some big deep breaths, or take some deep breaths and all this sorts of thing. Most of us know those techniques or have tried various and know what works. I'm not quite sure. I don't know what you guys think about when it's something which is, well, actually, yeah, how would you describe this? What actually do you think is the biggest fear we're going to be facing here that we've got to let go? Is it fear of the future and the changes that we've got to face? Or is it fear of we're going out there and now we're at risk of catching this virus? Or is it more fear of what's it done to our futures? I don't know what your view is, John, on what's the best, which is the most significant fear, or do we just they're all together?
I think it's all together. Yeah, we approach this, I guess, in a way to say everyone's going to come into this very differently in terms of, you know, where they are with it. And it's all those that you've described, you know, and certainly there's the fear of financial issues around, there's health issues and physical issues. And so I think, yeah, again, it just really depends on where the person is coming from and what they're experiencing. And for us, I think it was this idea of kind of looking at this kind of from the mountaintop, you know, just overview of the general process of by which might relieve some of that tension, and to be able to move forward, you know, until we, you know, and so much Alex used to talk about in the earlier programs about taking action, making a decision. And what's so amazing is that sometimes we often don't recognize that we do have choices, that we've been given this opportunity as human beings to actually choose where our thoughts go and where we want to, you know, and how we want to deal with those thoughts. And so a lot of this, I think, is moving into this space of making a decision to look at something differently. You know, you have choices. And what will my choice be now that I've opened up the blind? And will my choice be to look at things maybe in a different way? And you know, I've been talking a little bit about this idea of, and for myself, is the first thing that I like to do is to practice self-care. And you mentioned a little bit about that. Certainly there's people who practice breathing, We can talk about meditation.
Yeah.
But I think it's in this space that we're given that this is the opportunity for us to be gentle to ourselves, you know, and as we've opened up this space, how can we be more at ease? And that's what you brought, Caroline, at the beginning. And what are those things that we can do to put ourselves at ease as we've gone through this process, so that we're more grounded and that we're more in this place of relaxation, maybe, or again, at ease.
Mm.
Well, can I add something? Well, first of all, thank you, Caroline. You brought some interesting layer in our discussion, and the layer is one thing is, I would say, fresh fears, which current, dramatic change in our, circumstances and all that virus-related stuff. It's actually quite new fears. I mean, and I do hope that people we are not talking about chronic fears, I hope. So right now, let's separate two different things, because I believe there are different, I would say, solutions for those two different types of cases. Because the fresh fear, something which we are forming right now, people have, I believe, people have opportunity right now not to make it chronic. Meaning, if they're able to notice what they're doing with their bodies, what I mean is noticing fearful thoughts. Why it's so important? Well, you cannot address, you cannot reframe, you cannot let go if you haven't noticed. So noticing the first part, facing, F, that's super important. And for fresh fears, it opened the door, opportunity, not to allow that fear to get into our body and become a chronic issue. I mean, I agree with you. When it's inside of the body, when it's built over the years, when that energy is stored in some organ, I don't know, which starts to fail, or some diseases start to manifest itself as a consequences of that storage of energy which is not flowing. So this is it's a different issue, and it's still possible to get rid of that kind of level, but I think it's a little bit more difficult to let go something which was stored for years. Yeah, I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just, yeah, a little bit more serious, kind of still possible. Like example, how to, if you missed the moment, if you already allowed that your thoughts to build representation in your body, meaning you're already depressed. I mean, even if you change certain thought, you kind of generally, your body is already under sequence of those thoughts, the body already kind of influenced. So in my case, for example, my strategy, which may be not fit to everyone, is physical exercises. I mean that literally pump blood, of course, running or doing something physical intensely. I mean, it's just reset the whole system instantly. So it's kind of prevention, and at the same time, it's like a reset button, very intense. Some people could do that with the breathing. I know one of the techniques when you do breathing like in a, how to call it, sporadic way. So trying to change your breathing pattern every 3-5 seconds. And somehow it's confusing the body, and it's not allowing body to, to do their normal things. Like, for example, if you are building fear and you start breathing like something unusual, some completely not typical, and as a result, you are gonna confuse your body from the normal way of. So you could restore and shake the whole system. By the way, exercises in many ways they're changing breathing pattern. You start breathing actually more, how to say it, with a higher frequency and pumping, the oxygen, and yeah, somehow exercises and breathing, they're kind of, interrelated. So sorry for my long talk, but I believe two things. Fresh fear, if you watch, if you're not allowed to store in your body, you have a great chance, to avoid the whole thing. Or if it's already stored and it's already chronic, yeah, that's an issue which maybe we will address in next talks. But I would separate those things, from each other, because I think the strategy would be a little bit different. What do you think, Caroline, in terms of my feedback?
Well, I think fresh fears, you could call stress or people being stressed about this particular new situation. It's new, yeah. It's unfamiliar, and unfamiliar generally causes stress, but it also takes a lot of energy. It takes an awful amount of mental and emotional energy. So whatever we can do, or whatever I can do, whatever people can do to be aware, as you say, be aware of the stress, face it, the fears, and let them go in some way. It then opens you up to being more creative, more in the present, more now, more creative to opportunities. And therefore also, yeah, in a much, much better place for sort of moving forward in some way and making changes, and adapting, to be honest, because I think without a doubt, we're all going to have to adapt. And that's not good. That's going to be hard work. That's, it's potentially hard work. Very, yes, I don't think I'm the most adaptable person, actually. I like to think I'm flexible, but I realize I'm not. I like to think I can accept change, but I realize I find it really tough. And I think most of us find it tougher than we sometimes admit. And yeah, I like the easier life.
What is your way? I mean, when we talk about release, like what is your personal strategy, which might or might not, fit with with other people, but what do you do?
For stress, I realize that it's become a habit now with me, actually. Literally, I do check in on my body and check how I'm breathing. Am I breathing shallowly? Am I holding my shoulders up? Am I tensing? And for me, it's body awareness. And if necessary, yeah, a session of 10 breaths or something where the out breath's longer than the in breath. Something like that, or indeed exercise, or indeed sometimes it'll be journaling and write things down.
Yeah.
Just get them out of your mind, get them on paper. Some people, a walk, yes. Some people it's gardening. Exercises, yes, not as, I suspect, as energetic as you do, Alex, but yes, exercise as well. Lots of things, but I think the biggest thing is an awareness of where you are, and then you find what works for you. And I mean, we'll all have something different which works or works easiest for us. But I do know I need to do that and ground that to then be able to think more clearly, and to think more clearly, and then actually to start taking action, because that's what want to go. So yes, and
okay,
and it's when you do that, you can start to let go and really move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I also find, how to say it, influence state through physiology the easiest. I mean, it's, yeah, there are other ways, but I agree with you. Change your posture, start breathing or moving around, and the state is changing.
Yeah,
and
if you change...
the change of thoughts, you could instantly interrupt it through physiology. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think emotions they are more powerful than thoughts. And so if you can change your body, you can change your emotions, your feelings, you can change your emotions. And then you're in a better place to actually really sort of take charge of your thoughts, I think.
Yeah.
For me, it runs that way around.
Makes sense.
I agree. Yeah.
No. Yeah, I think the thoughts kind of very easy, light things. I would say the emotions, it's something already which your body, I would say, respond to those thoughts. So as a result, I believe the kind of emotions are kind of heavier, I would say. So, and as a result, if you go backwards from the body to emotions to thoughts, I think it's kind of ideal chain. John, what can you say about our discussion right now? What are your thoughts?
No, absolutely. I so appreciate what everybody shared, because these are very much in line with some of the practices that I take up myself. I mean, one of the things that I do in the morning is when I wake up, I kind of, just lay in bed and say, okay, I've been given another day. And how am I going to make this the best day that I can? And I start that way in this kind of positive affirmation. But one of the things that I think is really important and what we continue to see, read, and hear about is how important it is for us to connect with others. And, if we are giving to others in some way, and I think at this time, yes, we're limited by kind of physical contact, but connecting with others and moving away from ourselves and supporting others. I believe the old adage that when we give, we receive. And when we're putting our energy out there to others in some way, for instance, for me, I'm reaching out and giving people calls that I know probably aren't having a lot of interaction. Other people are donating food. Other people are donating money. Some way of this kind of volunteerism. I continue to do my hospice volunteering. And even though I'm not able to be with these people, I'm calling them, those that I'm able to speak with on the phone. And the more that I am giving out there, honestly, the more at peace I've become. And it's creating more clarity when I think about some of those fears when they start coming in, because I see some of them as being not very rational. And that doesn't, I'm not certainly not saying that some fears are not rational, but for me, some of the things that I do worry about, I'm going, you know what, in this big picture, I can change the way that I'm thinking about this. But so much of this is dependent on my giving to others and supporting others. Because honestly, it's brought so much peace to me. And I think what happens is that even though we may not know how it impacts others, that simple placement of energy from ourselves in this good intention to others is very powerful. And I think it's something that we can't hold on to, we can't necessarily see, but I think it really makes such a huge difference and an impact on both sides, the person giving and the person receiving. So I just wanted to share that part of connection and supporting others.
Well, awesome. Thank you very much, John. Thank you for sharing. I believe it's kind of action. I mean, it's kind of, well, not sitting and be afraid what will happen with me or my family, but start doing something. And when you connect with people, energy starts to flow. And finally, all that power of your energy and not really anymore devoted, how to say, to support your fearful thoughts. It actually starts to flow. I mean, yeah, I see sense in that. Caroline, what do you?
I would absolutely support what John said, 100%. Connection is massively important. And I know it's not something I've worked with, but it's something for myself I've been interested in, sort of studying depression, and there's a lot, and the risk of depression in this situation for some people will be very high. And there's a lot of thinking now amongst people that seems to say, and it makes sense to me, is that it's all about, if you've got connection, we're social animals, and if you've got connection with people, and that means giving and receiving and helping others, yeah, it just lifts, it always lifts you. It's what being human's about. So for me, yeah, that's one of the scarier things about this, because it's pushing us away from connection. And yeah, if we find other ways of connecting, I prefer not, I mean, it's great via the internet and everything else and telephone, but I prefer face-to-face, but I'll go for whatever I can get.
Yeah.
But yeah, connection is massively important. And if we can do something, it actually also removes the sense, it can remove a sense of it. I know for me, it makes me feel better about myself. And if I'm helping someone else, that's really, and contributing, that's great. It removes any sense of helplessness as well, which I think is Yeah, so again, fear of helplessness, it's something else that you can let go in that way. So yes, I think I'm totally in agreement with you, John.
Awesome.
Awesome
First of
practice.
all, thank you, Caroline. First of all, I would like to say that we are fortunate. Our profession is about helping others, and I do believe that that's what we right now doing, literally, trying to talk it, to bring it to the surface, and discuss it, and something which, which is placed in front of you, on a table, and it has less power over you. That's for sure. And so if people like it, I would actually encourage them, because I always forget about our kind of, marketing purposes and reach more people. So I would like to encourage people, if they do like our topics and conversations, just subscribe to our channel and share that video and be kind of proactive, because that's, I believe, your opportunity to help others. And in terms of what can I add about, John, in the previous conversations, you mentioned about which, I don't know, there is a story about wolf, or I don't know which wolf you feed, but it's like the idea is that what you are paying attention to starts to grow, or that thing become bigger and stronger. And the whole noticing paradox is that when you notice that you kind of missed, I would say, you allowed yourself some fearful thought, I would encourage everyone to realize that, what am I feeding right now? Meaning, where I am placing my energy. By energy, I mean what I am paying attention to. Because if I start paying attention to others and how I can help, it's, as you, Caroline, said, hope and fear cannot occupy the same space. I mean, it's one or another. So just noticing what am I, feeding, because that thing will grow. And if you are feeding your fearful thoughts, well, after a while, you find yourself in a very dark place, scary place. And if you start caring about others, or do something about it, then the place will be lighter and lighter, because you are feeding that kind of wolf or whatever. And that's what I would probably add to.
Yeah, I suppose the two wolves there that you're describing, it sounds to me, top of my head, it's it's you're feeding wolf of contribution and giving, as opposed to the wolf of what I've lost.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
the two can't coexist, perhaps, in the same way. I don't know, but it makes a lot of sense to me, looking at it that way.
Okay, so we touched our topic, and now I believe people would have a little bit more understanding, or at least they are familiar with different angles of the process of fear, meaning face or notice, explore, or I mean, we discussed that you could meditate, kind of ignore, or not feed that kind of thoughts, or reframe and learn how to talk, how to ease that talk, find to reframe verbally yourself. So there are different ways how you could explore, and then you can accept it, meaning, again, it's like maybe reframing will lead you into the easy attitude towards what fear is. It's a part of life. It's something which is supposed to warn you from, being, I don't know, reckless, or something which is physiological. It's built-in system which helps us. So yeah, when you look at fear from this position, then maybe chances to release, let it go, and move your energy towards action would be possible. And that's what I would encourage people, who is watching right now our series. John and Caroline, you could say a few words also in the end of our talk. John, let's start with you. What you would like to say?
I think you captured it, Alex, and I think ultimately, I look at life as a journey, and we're going to be going through these processes for as long as we're here.
Yes.
on this in this physical world. So So I say that, and I always kind of remind people that, you know, this is something that I have to practice all the time. This isn't a one-time deal, you know, because a new thought and a new emotion and a new fear can pop up each time. So as we've always learned, when we practice things, it helps us learn, right? And so this process that we've been talking about is also around practicing. That it does take time to move through these different stages, and some might be easier for others, but the bottom line is that this is an ongoing practice, and this is something that I will continue to practice myself, because there will always be something in this life journey that's going to come up. Bottom line is, how am I and where am I going to put my energy? Is it going to be towards, as we called it, feeding that hungry wolf that may not be the positive way, or am I going to change that energy and move it into a different direction for the positive? And you know, and ultimately, you know, just to remind, you know, ourselves that we're okay, and that right now in this very moment, it's about being present. And, you know, I like to just say to myself, as even Caroline said, she checks in, and that's the other thing. I'm okay right now. I'm okay right now. So again, but it is a process, and just know that it's something that we continue to work on and work through.
Super. John, thank you. Caroline, last word.
I'm not sure I've got a lot to add to that. No, it was great. Thank you. Thank you both. Yeah, I'd come back to, practicing and realizing, because we are all faced with something which is amazingly unfamiliar. So it's going to be tough. So going easy on ourselves. Some days will be better than other days, and some things will be easier. And each of us will find some things more difficult and other things easier. So being aware also, if we get not very good reactions sometimes from other people, or they seem to be reacting badly, sort of, I think being kind towards them as well is going to be important, because we're going to have to be tolerant of ourselves and also of other people. And being aware that we have choices. We have choices on what we think, how we decide to act, and how we interact with others, and connecting to them and how we connect with them. And so one way or another, it's about awareness and positive intention, I guess. Positive intention, and to try and do the best we can, and at the same time accept we're okay as we are, and we can only do what we can do. We can only do our best, no more.
If I would, thank you, Caroline. If I would move kind of that statement to exaggeration, like talking from over-optimistic person, like I am sometimes, I would say, what is the best time to practice your resilience against fear? Wow, that's, well, you know, this is the time, guys. So at least this is the opportunity to check and to put stuff in practice. And thank you very much both for joining, and I hope to see you on the following talks. Caroline, John, thank you very much. Talk to you later.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.